In this video, we are going to create a beginner-friendly project using the xTool M1 Ultra and the Studio software. So if you are brand new to this machine and you don't know where to get started, this is going to be the video for you. Hey there, I'm Sarah, you're watching Creative Ramblings. We talk a lot about lasers and craft tech on this channel. So if you are an M1 Ultra user or you have another craft tech machine, you will probably find a lot of videos that are helpful on this channel. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can follow along. Today we are talking all about the M1 Ultra. So we are going to cover what this machine can do because it's more than a laser. It's a DIY machine with a lot of different components. So we're going to cover what this machine can do, and we are going to make a project that uses the laser, the blade, and the pen. I'm going to show you how to do that from start to finish. It's something that you can go ahead and replicate on your machine. And then I want to talk through some tips and some troubleshooting if you are running into some issues with this machine. The M1 Ultra is a true DIY machine. Now, I have had this machine since it came out. So as we go through this video, if there is something that I don't cover or you want to learn more about, definitely ask me in the comments, but there are also more videos linked down below that go into each individual feature and a bunch of other things about this machine. So be sure to take a look at that. So my machine may look a little bit different than yours. So the machine is this part right here. I have mine sitting on a riser base, which just lifts everything up. The base opens in the front, and inside I have a honeycomb. The honeycomb can slide in and out. I actually just store it in there when I'm using it, but we're going to use this in our projects today, and I'll show you exactly how to place it. But the riser is functional because it allows you to have more height on your project. So if we want to put a rotary tool in there and engrave on a tumbler or engrave on the top of a wooden box, the riser allows us to do that. Up on top here, the M1 Ultra comes with a couple different carriages. This one over here is currently holding the fine point blade, which we are going to use for this project. This cartridge right here is the 10-watt laser, and we are going to use this as well. And notice how easy it is to interchange these modules. In and out, no screws needed. So if we wanted to change this out for the print head or something else, it just pops in and out. Inside the machine, we have this base plate right here, and it's held together, it's held in with 2 screws. I have already loosened up my screws, so I can just pull this whole base plate out. And now we can see down into the riser where I slid that honeycomb in. So I'm going to open up the front of the riser and pull my honeycomb out. And then I am going to set it right on top. And so this is going to be our working area for our first project. If you do not have the honeycomb, you can use this base plate that comes with it and the triangular prisms that come with it, and you're going to get some great cutting results. I really like the honeycomb, and if you find you use your laser a lot, this honeycomb is going to come in handy. So we've got our blade installed, we've got our laser installed, we've got our honeycomb installed. Let me show you the first project we're making. This is a keychain or a bag charm, and it is double layered. We've got acrylic on the back, wood on the front, and some writing in the middle. It's a great little gift piece. This is a paper card. So we have HTV ironed onto paper, a couple layers of paper cut out, and then on the inside we have Happy Mother's Day written in pen. Together, these make such a cute little gift for Mom for Mother's Day. We are using 2 materials for our first project. This is a piece of true flat plywood. So I've definitely used it up. I've done a bunch with this, but it is plywood that has a veneer over the top. It gets its name true flat because it is always flat, and you get some great results with this. You've also got a really beautiful finish. So this is the walnut finish. So I'm going to place this into the machine. The other thing we are using is some red cast acrylic. So you can see the color right here. Mine is masked on both sides, and I'm going to keep it masked because I prefer to cut my acrylic with the mask on. This is cast acrylic, so it is diode friendly. It's going to cut beautifully with that laser. So we'll use this second. I'm going to turn on my machine using the button in the back right here. I have this hooked up to a couple things. This is first hooked up to Air Assist, which does come with your machine, and it runs on auto. I normally vent my M1 Ultra out a window. It's got a hose hooked up in the back right here. But because of where I'm filming right now, I don't have a window accessible for this particular machine, so I am hooking this up to the AP2. If you find that you are using this laser without a window nearby, definitely look at the AP2. It's a really powerful filter that does not need to be vented outside. So my material is inside, the machine is on, I am hooked up to my filter. Now I need to go into xTool Studio, which is the latest software available. I do have a USB cord here, so I'm gonna hook it up via USB. You can also hook it up via Wi-Fi very easily. I find in the space that I'm in, USB is going to work best for me. Most of my other M1 Ultra videos talk about a software called XCS, or xTool Creative Studio. That was the first variation of software that xTool came out with their first laser, and it served us well all the way through 2025. Going forward, xTool Studio is going to be the only software updated. So it's one of the reasons that I chose to make this video right now is because I want to do these projects using the newest software. So let's go over and let me walk you through this project in the software. This is the homepage for xTool Studio. I'm going to come up to New Project on the top right. My USB cord is plugged in. Over here on the right, I've got that little green light. It says it's ready to go. My AP2 is showing right here, but it is not currently on, so I do need to turn that on before we start cutting. Now, if you don't have a device hooked up yet, or if you've never hooked a device up, you are going to come up here to this little button, and you are going to find your device in here and click on it, and it will connect. If it is not connecting, you can go to these three dots right here and go to Device Settings. When your device is hooked up, there's a whole bunch of different settings in here. If your device is not hooked up, you will see a box that says Wi-Fi or USB, and it'll help you search for available machines out there. But we are hooked up and ready to go. So let's start on the right over here. If I click on lasering on a flat surface, I'm going to get a bunch of different processing options. Now I am lasering on the honeycomb, but that also serves as a flat surface. So we're gonna leave it at that. Next up, let's pick our material. So we're using this true flat plywood here, and I have honed in my settings that I know work really well for me. But if you are looking for a specific material, you can probably find it in here. There are just a ton of options, and xTool does a really good job of recommended settings. So I'm going to go over to this walnut plywood here and click apply, because that is the closest to the true flat plywood that I am using. The next thing I want to do is mark my surface area or my working area. There is no camera in the M1 Ultra. So this little red crosshair here is actually where the laser dot is right now. And I need to tell the studio how big my piece of plywood is. So I'm going to click on this little flag right here. I want to mark off a rectangle and then click Start Marking. The first thing I want to do is take that red crosshair and just move it to where I want to mark. And so I want to avoid that heart that's already cut out. That's the spot I'm going to start with. And then I'm going to hit the white button on the front. And that's going to mark my first point. Then I want to come down all the way over to the side, mark off a rectangle, hit that button again. Then I like to move the crosshair right back to the middle and shut the lid. My area is marked. It seems to be a little bit out of the processing area, but that's okay. We're going to hit End Marking and Done. So this is where I want to do my cutting and engraving, in that box right there. Now we moved that red crosshair to the middle. We want to now come over to this ruler right here and click this. This is going to auto measure. So we've got everything on the right over here ready to go. Let's head over to the left and create that bag tag or that keychain design. So I'm going to come into elements, and there's a ton of stuff you can use to design in here. I'm just in the basic category, and I'm going to grab a heart and put that on my canvas. And I want this heart to be 2.5, maybe 3 inches, so I can just drag it until I get to the right size. To turn it into a keychain, I need to add a little hole. So back in basic shapes, I'm going to add a circle, and I want this to be about 1/4 inch. So instead of dragging it, I can come up here and put in 1/4 inch. So I know it is exactly what I need it to be. And I'm just going to put that over on the side. I'm going to highlight both of these together and just group them so that way when I'm working with them, they stay together. Now I am going to copy and paste this heart. So I have the back one, which is going to be made out of red acrylic, and the front one, which is going to be made out of that walnut true flat plywood. Now I want to bring in yet another heart, and this one is going to go inside that first one. So I want to size it and line it up in the middle. And Studio has these snap grids, so it'll tell me when it's aligned perfectly in the middle. And I think that looks really good. Now I want all of these pieces to stay together here, so I'm going to highlight all 3 of these pieces and come up to this combine or merge button. There are a lot of different features here, and it can get a little confusing. I have a whole video just covering these 4 features and what they do. I will link that down in the description. But we are going to subtract at overlap, which just brings everything together. I'm actually going to do the same thing for this one here. So now I have my pieces that I'm cutting out. The next thing I want to do is add some text. So the way this is going to work is this one is going to sit on top of this one, and that text is going to show through. So the text is actually going to go on the red acrylic. So if I click on the text button and put it here, I can type out mom. So I'm going to type the word mom, and then I've got another line of text. And then I'm going to go back to mom, and I am going to choose a font here. And I've got a couple saved that I really like. So I've got a nice script font for that. And then more block lettering for the next one. And then I'll just size them down and line them up. Another way to line things up without using that snap grid is to select both items and come up here to align, and I can align them horizontally, which will make sure they are aligned right in the middle. Now just to make this look a little better, I'm going to come all the way over to engrave on the right hand side here. We'll touch on all of that in a minute, but if I hit engrave now, it's going to make them look a little more solid. And I do want these 2 to stick together, so I'm going to come up to combine and unite, brings everything together, makes it one piece. So now I need to make sure that these words fit in this little space in here, because that is where the engraving is going to show through. That looks like it fits pretty good. So I'm going to bring it over, center it on this guy, and then just check one more time. If I bring this top over, does that look good? Maybe need to move it up a little bit. I like this design studio because I can see how everything looks before I go ahead and do the cutting and engraving. Now we are going to play around with layers a little bit. It's going to help us define which heart is being cut out of which material. If you have a very large or complicated project, layers are really, really good. So I want to show you how to use them. So up here, this blue heart, I'm going to right click on this, and I am going to make it, let's just say yellow. So this is yellow, and I'm going to make yellow stand for wood. Then I am going to do the engraving. Right click, I'm going to make that black. And then my other heart is going to be red acrylic, so I'm going to make it red. And you can make these any color you want. That really doesn't matter. It's kind of whatever you want it to be. Now if I come over on the very bottom left, I can see layers. And if I pick the red layer, it highlights just the heart. The black layer highlights the text. The yellow layer highlights the other heart. So you can imagine if you had a very complicated design, this would be a good way to pick those out. Now we need to set these settings for each of these. So let's start with that yellow heart. Over on the right, we've already selected the walnut plywood. I want to cut this, And if you can go into this one-click setting here, and it's going to tell you exactly the power and speed that you're going to need. I know that 90 and 5, power of 90 and a speed of 5 work really well because I've done this a couple times. You can also manually adjust your power and speed right down here to whatever you need them to be. So I'm going to keep it at 90 and 5. I am going to do 2 passes though, just to make sure that it cuts all the way through. Down here, we have overcut, we have kerf, we have focus. There's a bunch of different options down on the bottom here. There is tab generation. There's all kinds of different things here. I wouldn't worry too much about this. When you're doing a beginner project, you just want to go with those one-click settings and make it easy on yourself. And then as you get to more complicated things, you can play around with these other functions. So now let's go to the red layer. And this is going to be set to cut. But this is a different material, so we're gonna wait on that right now. And in fact, I actually don't wanna cut that red acrylic right now because I don't have red acrylic in the machine. So right above where it says cut, I'm gonna click on that output button and turn it off. This means this is not going to get cut right now. I'm gonna do that the same to the black layer. I am going to turn that output off. I'm gonna select these and just move them out of my marking area. So all we're working with right now is the wood heart. Down on the very bottom, there's a little hand. So I'm gonna move this whole thing down and then click off the hand so I can actually see what I'm doing on the canvas here. I'm just gonna place this in the marking area and we're ready to cut. So everything looks good over here. I do want to frame. Framing is gonna show me exactly where this is going to cut on the wood. So I'm gonna hit that button right here and then go to the machine. All right, that framing looks great. I am ready to process. Before I hit this button, I have to tell you one thing. I had my AP2 hooked up here, and for the life of me, I cannot get the Bluetooth to recognize it on this machine. So I'm gonna turn that on manually, which you can absolutely do so that I get some good ventilation. We all experience issues with these machines. If you are experiencing an issue, know you're not alone. Sometimes we just have to troubleshoot a little bit. So that's what we're gonna do here. So let's hit process. It's going to be a few different reminders here. It's going to give me an estimated time. It's going to remind me about what module's in there, some safety stuff, and then I'm going to hit start. And I still have to hit start on the machine. When the cut is done, I like to wait until the fan turns off just to get any smoke out of there before I open it. I can also turn off my purifier and pull this out. In this situation, nothing fell through. However, if you had something like this little dot that fell through, make sure you pick this up and pull that out right away. It's a fire hazard to leave any debris in there. So we have our little piece. I'm going to put this off to the side. Then we are going to put the acrylic in and position this right over the top and go back to the software. We are all done. We can hit finished. I'm going to click on that heart we just cut and I'm going to turn that output off, move it out of the way there. Then we're going to bring this one back in and I want to make sure I click on the red, turn the output back on, click on the black, turn that output back on. So before we play around with settings, let's mark our acrylic using the same process that we did before. And then we'll auto measure that acrylic as well. Move the heart and the engraving into the marked area. And now we can pick our material. So I'm going to pick red acrylic. And I like to leave my masking on. I never leave my laser unattended. There is a potential fire hazard there with the paper masking, but I know that I'm going to watch this and keep a good eye on it. I have never had an issue. If your acrylic is masked with plastic, you have to remove that before cutting because that can release some toxic fumes. So coming over to just the red layer, I have this set to cut, and I can go to the one-click cut settings. And we've got 90 and 4 here. And that actually works really well for me, and I do about 3 passes. So 90% power, speed of 4, 3 passes. Over on engraving, I can go and pick something out of here, but I know that when I'm engraving with a mask on, I need to change my settings just a little bit. So my settings are going to be a power of 90, a speed of 100, and 1 pass. Now what this is going to do automatically without you doing anything is it is going to engrave first, cut second. So let's frame that. Everything looks good. We can go to process. Going to take us about 5 minutes. Turn on that filter and we're ready to go. Acrylic is all done. So we're still masked on both sides and we're going to leave it that way for now. So let's assemble this keychain. So we have engraved away the paper and then engraved into the acrylic, but it'll still look red if I take this backing off right now. So I want to fill it in with paint. So I have a white acrylic paint marker here, and I am just going to color in the lines. By leaving the masking on while I'm doing this, I am going to get really, really crisp lines. I can go over the paper a little bit and it's really not gonna matter. Our paint is dry, so now it's time to take the masking off. So there's a couple ways you can do this. The first is with a little weeding tool like this. You can just grab a corner and then pull. And then I can use that tool again to cut the middles out here. That's looking fantastic. So now we need to pull off the back, and I'm going to show you the other way that you could take backing off. This is Gorilla Tape. It is a really strong tape, and if I take a piece and just push it on to the backing really, really good, when I pull, it's going to pull that backing right off. So you could absolutely do this on the front side too, and then you can reuse this tape. So now I've got my acrylic both sides off, and I just need to glue these together. My absolute favorite glue for sticking wood and acrylic together is Gorilla Super Glue. If the glue gets on the acrylic where you can see it, you will see it when it dries, even though it's clear. So you don't need a lot at all. Make sure it doesn't leak out from the sides. I'll clamp that together and then we'll add a keychain. All right, let's do part 2 of this project. So we need to change up our machine a little bit. So the first thing I need to do is take out the honeycomb. And I mentioned always cleaning down below. I've got one little piece of acrylic in there that I can toss. I like to store my honeycomb down below. Baseplate has these little handles right here, so I can slide this in nice and easy, use those handles to lower it down. So I don't always put my screws back in to hold this. I kind of just leave it like this. If you lasered on this, whether it was flat on here or you had your prisms on, I would take some of that LA's Totally Awesome and just wipe this whole thing down so we don't have any of that laser debris or dust for our next part of our project. We are going to be using the fine point blade, which is already installed, looks just like this. So I'm going to make sure that stays in there. The other thing I'm using is pens. So you can get a whole pack of pens, and I've got a red one here. And there is also a pen holder. So you could take your pen, stick it in this holder, And then when the time comes, we're gonna switch out this blade for the pen. Now there is another carriage that goes over here that does hold some other tools like the foiling tool, but both the pen and the blade fit right here. So let's move that back to the blade. It is so easy to change out. I do really like that. This is just a cover that fits on there, and we can leave the laser on. We're not using it, but we can leave it on. Now we need a cutting mat. This is sticky on both sides. It has plastic on both sides. So I'm gonna pull the covering off of one and stick this to the base plate. This is why I mentioned that if you have any of that lasering dust in there, you really wanna make sure that that is cleaned up. So I'm gonna push that down really well, and then I'm gonna pull off the other plastic. So let's go over to the software and do our design first, and then we'll come back and put material in here. So we're completely done with this project. I can hit finished, and I do want to save it. So you can Control S, or you can come up here and save. Now I can go and just start another canvas up here, and we can create our project from here. So let's come over and pick our mode. There are a lot of different modes you can choose. We are using the blade, but we're also using the pen. So let's come over to multi-mode processing. And the first material we're going to use is just cardstock. We're making this card that is made out of white cardstock, and then we have some red cardstock and some HTV, some iron-on vinyl that's going to go on top of that, and then we're going to use the pen to write a little message on the inside. So the first thing I want to do is create a rectangle for that card. So I've got one rectangle here for the white paper, then I need a second rectangle. And this is just going to be a little inlay that sits inside here. And I'm going to put some exact measurements for that. And that is going to be cut from red cardstock. So right away, I want to move this to a red layer so I remember what I'm doing here. So this is going to be red cardstock. The blue is going to be the white cardstock. And now I want to bring in a design that I can cut out of HTV. This is something I found on Creative Fabrica. It's just a bunch of little hearts together. And I want to make that the same size as this red cardstock here. And if I want to not lock the aspect ratio, I can click on that little button there, and then it'll resize it for me. So that is going to be the same size as this box here. There, that'll fit perfectly. So then I want to move this to a different layer. Let's do green for that one. So I've got a red piece of paper, I've got some HTV, I've got a white piece of paper, and now I want to write a little note inside the card. So back to text. And when you are choosing fonts to write with, over on the font line here, you can select single line. This is going to give you some nice single line writing. All right, so these are all the different pieces of the card. So let's play around with some settings. So come down to layers. We're gonna start with our blue layer, and we chose multi-level processing. So down on the bottom here, I can pick which module I'm using. So I'm using the fine point blade for this one. And it's going to give you recommended settings. I would just stick with that unless you're having issues. Then I'm going to go to the red setting, which is this other, oops, I left the text in red. I need to move the text to a different color. Let's move the text to black. Okay, then we'll go to the red setting, which is also cardstock. So I am going to do a fine point blade for that. Now if I come over to green, we are not working with that just yet, so I am going to go ahead and turn the output off. And we can kind of move that green out of the way because we're not using it right now. And the Happy Mother's Day is black, and we are going to select drawing pen. There's two different ways you can do this. We are doing line drawing because it's single line. But if I had a thicker font, I could also do color fill, which would fill in the font for me. But we are just going to do line. I can pick my pen color here, which is red. So the red cardstock, I don't want to cut just yet. I'm going to turn the output off. So really we are just doing the rectangle and the pen for right now. So let's put a piece of white cardstock in there and mark the area. Marking is done exactly the same as it is with the laser. And then I just want to make sure that my two pieces are right in that marked area, and we can go ahead and process. On this screen, it's going to tell me what's first. And this is saying that I need to do that pen first, and then we switch over to the fine point blade. So I need to make sure that the pen is in, and then we can hit start. At this point, we're going to hit continue. I'm going to switch out for the blade and then hit start. We'll replace it with a red piece of cardstock to cut out that little rectangle. All right, so I want to turn the output off for Happy Mother's Day and for the card and get these out of the way. Now, because I'm using 8.5 by 11 paper, I don't have to change my marking area at all. So I am just going to bring the red rectangle back up to the top. And I'm going to change this to 2 passes because it's a little bit thicker than the other one. And then we can process. Oops. It would help if I turned the output on there. Okay, now we can process. Now we're going to use some HTV or heat transfer vinyl. This is the color that it is. This is the front. But we always cut from the back. So I am going to stick this in here, glossy side down. And again, I really don't have to measure because I'm using the same working area up on the top here. And finally, we are going to do our HTV in that same spot. However, I need to change my material for this. So we're going to come down to heat transfer vinyl. Turn on my output, select fine point blade. I've got the settings right here. It's in my machine. We're ready to go. All right, HTV is done. We can pull that whole thing off the mat. And I am gonna leave that mat in there for now, but I am gonna put a piece of plastic over it just to protect the adhesive. We're all done with the machine. Let's go assemble our things. So I've got the HTV and I'm just gonna cut out the part that is cut so I can kind of feel where it ends here. Got my paper pieces over there, and now we're going to weed this. So weeding is just starting at the corner and you're pulling the HTV off of its backing and discarding the pieces you don't want. All right, everything is weeded from the back. This is what it looks like from the front. This is heat transfer vinyl, so we are going to attach it with heat using a little mini heat press here. So I've got my red piece of cardstock, line this up, and then we just press it with the heat press. And it doesn't take much. Just a little bit of heat on there is going to allow it to stick. And then we just pull the carrier sheet back, and that sticks on the paper. And the rest of the card assembly is pretty simple. We're just gonna fold this in half. and glue that down on the front. So that way, when you open the card, you've got the Happy Mother's Day right there, and you can add a little signature on the bottom. Together, these make such a cute little gift for Mom for Mother's Day. So we made 2 items using the M1 Ultra, and they feel like kind of involved projects, but what I wanted to get across was how easy it is to switch between that laser and blade and pen and really use this for the DIY machine that it is. These projects go really well together. We've got a paper card and a laser-made keychain, and normally if you have a laser, you would go use your Cricut or cutting machine to make this card, but I love that we can do it all with the M1 Ultra. So throughout this video, I really wanted to point out to you where I was running into some trouble. So one, I was having some issue connecting the AP2, my air purifier. I did end up getting that fixed in the end, but I was getting a little frustrated with it that I couldn't connect it. The other thing that I am having an issue with right now with my M1 Ultra is with the printer cartridge. I really wanted to do a card that you could print on, but it's currently not working for me. And I have moved on to some advanced troubleshooting. I'm pretty sure I know what the issue is. I just have to take that next step to fix it. So just know that things aren't going to run smoothly all the time, but you can come to this channel, you can come to YouTube in general, you can come to xTool support or the xTool Facebook group, and we're going to help you through your issues. I would still highly, highly recommend this machine, even though I run into some issues every now and then. That's just part of owning any kind of craft tech machine. So I hope you took something away from this video and you're going to go create a project with your xTool M1 Ultra. If you have any comments or questions on the projects we created here today, please let me know down in the comments. I've also linked a number of other videos down there. If you want to go more into depth onto something specific with the M1 Ultra, it may be in one of those videos. If you like this video, if you found it helpful, give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I'm here every week with new videos helping you move forward in your creative journey. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.